You know, with Pope Francis's passing just after Easter, it's hard not to wonder what the future holds for the Catholic Church.
Definitely.
It feels like a really significant moment, and, well, for anyone curious about what happens next, it can seem a bit overwhelming, maybe.
For sure. Lots of questions.
So we thought we'd take a look, sort of dive into the process and some of the individuals who might be leading the church forward.
Exactly. It's a fascinating time, really, that intersection of deep tradition and, well, whatever comes next.
Right.
When a pope passes, the church has this very well-established way of choosing his successor, though it's pretty secretive.
Okay, let's get into that. Who gets to make this, monumental decision?
So the responsibility lies with the Cardinal Electors. These are the cardinals under the age of 80.
Under 80, got it.
And right now, there are around 135 of them.
135.
They'll gather in what's called a conclave. It's essentially a locked-away election.
A locked-away election sounds like something out of a movie.
Doesn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. We're expecting that to happen sometime in probably early to mid-May.
Mid-May, okay. And this isn't a new thing, right? This process has been around for a while.
Oh, yeah. A long while. For over 6 centuries, actually. Since 1378, the popes have been chosen from among the cardinals.
6 centuries?
But interestingly, the rules technically allow for any baptized male Roman Catholic to be elected.
Really? Any baptized male Catholic?
Yep. It's definitely a long shot, but it's there in the fine print, yeah.
Wow, that's a detail you don't often hear. Okay, so what we want to do today is kind of shine a light on some of the cardinals who people are talking about, the potential contenders.
Sounds good.
We'll explore their backgrounds, maybe some of their key positions, just to give everyone a better sense of who might be guiding the church in the years ahead. Let's start with Cardinal Peter Erdo.
Okay, Cardinal Erdo. He's currently the Archbishop of Budapest in Hungary.
Budapest, right.
He's 72, so brings a lot of experience, and he's also a canon lawyer.
Canon lawyer. What does that mean in practice?
Well, essentially, he's an expert in church law. That expertise could really play a significant role in how he'd approach, say, governance and internal church matters.
Makes sense.
And what's also notable is his location. He's a leader in Hungary, a country where Christianity is a really significant part of the culture. Something like 80% of Hungarians identify as Christian.
That's a pretty powerful base, I imagine. What about his general views within the church? What's he known for?
Well, he's known to be supportive of Pope Francis's efforts, particularly the outreach to the Orthodox Christian churches.
Okay.
When it comes to the European cultural landscape, he's generally seen as being maybe on the conservative side of things.
Conservative side, okay. And migration. That's a big topic there.
It is, and on migration, he's taken what seems like a balanced approach. He recognizes the human right to migrate, but also stresses the importance of political stability.
So he doesn't fit neatly into one box, then? Not strictly conservative or liberal.
It's exactly right. While he's considered a traditionalist in many respects, he also seems to have earned respect across different spectrums within the church, even from people you might consider more liberal.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why some see him as someone who could potentially, bridge some divides. A unifying figure, perhaps?
That makes sense. Could be very valuable right now. Okay, who's another name we should know?
We should definitely talk about Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo.
Ambongo. Where's he from?
He's the Archbishop of Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He's 65.
Okay, DRC.
And he also holds a really influential position. He's the president of the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar. CCAM, they call it.
President of the African Bishops' Conferences. Wow.
Yeah, and he's garnered quite a bit of global attention recently.
Oh, really? What for?
Well, he played a key role in leading the African bishops when they unanimously rejected fiducia supplicans.
Yes. That was the Vatican Declaration about blessings for people in same-sex relationships, wasn't it?
That's the one. Came out last year. His very strong stance on that really drew attention.
So it sounds like he holds more traditional views on church teachings, generally.
That's probably a fair way to put it.
Sure.
He's known as a strong defender of orthodoxy, traditional doctrines like priestly celibacy, the church's moral teachings.
Right.
However, and this is important, and he's also a very strong voice for social justice.
Yeah.
A real champion for the poor and marginalized.
So it's complex.
Very. And he's not afraid to speak out against the Congolese government when he feels it's necessary. He's definitely a complex figure.
Definitely sounds like it. Holding both traditional doctrinal views and, well, progressive stances on social justice. That seems to be a theme we might see.
It does, yeah.
Who's next on our list then?
Next, we have Cardinal Mario Grich. He's currently the Secretary General for the Synod of Bishops.
The Synod of Bishops, that sounds pretty important, right? Central.
It really is. He's 68, and like Cardinal Erdo, he's also a canon lawyer.
Another canon lawyer. Okay.
Yeah. Because of his role, Cardinal Grech has a huge influence on how the church's synods are organized and run, how they function.
And what's his reputation there?
He's been praised, actually, for really promoting a more consultative and inclusive way of governing within the church, pushing for listening more.
A more collaborative approach. That seems like it could be a pretty significant shift in how things might operate at the top.
It certainly suggests a potential move towards maybe greater dialogue and shared decision-making. It's also interesting he comes from Malta.
Malta, okay. Tiny place.
Exactly. One of the smallest countries in the world. It just highlights how leadership in the church can really come from anywhere.
That's a great point. Okay, now let's talk about someone who's right there in the heart of the Vatican Cardinal Pietro Parolin.
Yes. Cardinal Parolin. He's 70, and he holds the very influential role of the Vatican's Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. So that's like the Pope's number 2,
Yeah.
the top diplomat.
Essentially, yes. Think of it as being the Pope's right-hand man, the second in command. His whole career has been a steady rise through diplomatic roles within the Vatican.
A career diplomat reaching that level. That definitely says a lot about his abilities, I'd imagine. What's his general reputation inside the church?
He's widely seen as a moderate figure.
Yeah.
Someone who might be able to help bridge some of the different viewpoints, maybe repair some rifts.
A bridge builder. Okay.
He's also considered to have a pretty progressive outlook on many issues, with a clear vision for the church on a global scale. And interestingly, just recently, he presided over a mass marking the 20th anniversary of Pope St. John Paul II's passing.
Symbolic.
Quite. April 2nd, that was.
So a figure who could potentially help heal divisions that could be really important right now. Now, what about Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa?
Cardinal Pizzaballa. He's the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Wow.
Yeah, he's 60, so a bit younger. And he's often seen as more of a, let's say, pastoral candidate, someone whose primary focus is really on the people, their spiritual and practical needs.
Being in Jerusalem must put him right at the center of so many global tensions. Intense.
Absolutely. And he's been very vocal during the recent conflict in the region. He even visited Gaza during the fighting.
He went into Gaza.
He did, which really shows his commitment, to the people there. He's a strong advocate for social justice and seems to really see his role as one of service.
How does he compare maybe to Pope Francis?
Well, in many ways, his concerns seem to echo some of Francis's priorities. Concern for migrants, his emphasis on interfaith dialogue, and maybe a similar dislike for excessive formality or clericalism in the church.
So someone who might continue in a similar vein, perhaps?
It's certainly a possibility people talk about. Now, let's turn our attention maybe towards Asia. Cardinal Luis Taigel from the Philippines.
Taigel, right. I've heard his name mentioned quite a bit.
Yes. Cardinal Taigel, he's 67. Currently, he's the pro-prefect for the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. Big title.
Evangelization of Peoples. So, mission focus.
Very much so. He's often called the Asian Francis.
Asian Francis. Okay, that nickname tells you a lot. What exactly does that comparison point to?
It really refers to his strong missionary spirit, that focus on evangelization, but also his deep concern for people living in poverty and his quite welcoming attitude towards LGBTQ plus Catholics and those who are divorced and remarried.
A continuation of Francis's pastoral approach, then.
That's the implication, yes.
Yeah.
He was also the Archbishop of Manila before his current role.
Right, the Philippines. Hugely Catholic country in Asia.
Exactly. And he also spent a good amount of time, 7 years, I think, studying in the United States. So he has this wide range of experiences.
U.S. study Archbishop in Manila, now in Rome. Quite a trajectory.
Definitely. His election could certainly be seen as a sign that the cardinals want to continue the general direction set by Pope Francis.
Makes a lot of sense. Who else should we keep an eye on?
Next up is Cardinal Matteo Zuppi. He's the Archbishop of Bologna in Italy.
Zuppi from Bologna, okay.
And he also currently heads the Italian Bishops' Conference, president there.
Bologna is a pretty important diocese in Italy, isn't it? What's he known for?
Cardinal Zuppi, he's 69. He has this reputation as a street priest.
A street priest.
Yeah, someone with a real missionary heart, very grounded. He's a proponent of a church that is truly attentive, that listens to the needs of its members, and one that's open to modernizing.
Modernizing. And inclusive, too.
Yes, he's known for his inclusive views, including toward same-sex couples and also people of different religious backgrounds. Wants dialogue.
And he's been active in some pretty high-profile peace efforts recently, hasn't he? I remember reading something.
Yes, absolutely. Pope Francis specifically appointed him as his special envoy to Russia and Ukraine,
Wow.
and also to the West Bank and even to Beijing, all in the cause of promoting peace.
That's a huge amount of trust from Francis.
It really is. That level of trust and the responsibility given to him, it speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Now, we also have a cardinal from Scandinavia on the list. That seems unusual.
It is. Cardinal Anders Arborelius. He's the Archbishop of Stockholm.
Stockholm. Okay.
He's 75. And he has a rather unique personal story, actually. He was raised Lutheran.
Your turn.
Yeah, and then converted to Catholicism when he was 20. And he holds the distinction of being the first ever cardinal from Scandinavia.
First one ever. That's fascinating. What are his key positions on different issues? Where does he stand?
Well, he's generally considered to hold traditional views on the church's teachings about sexual ethics, gender, things like
That
that.
could be traditional there.
But he also has a very strong focus on environmental concerns. Very strong. And interestingly, despite his more traditional stances in some areas, he's been a supporter of immigration into Sweden.
Really? Supporting immigration.
Yes, advocating for dialogue in integration rather than just strict limitations.
So again, we see this kind of nuanced perspective, not just a straightforward ideological stand.
Exactly. It's rarely simple.
Okay, finally, we have Cardinal Gerald Cyprien Lacroix from Canada.
Yes, Cardinal Lacroix. He's the Metropolitan Archbishop of Quebec. He's 67.
Quebec. What's his background?
His background includes years spent as a missionary, actually, and also as a professor in a seminary down in Colombia.
Missionary work, seminary professor, varied experience.
Yeah.
And he's faced some difficult circumstances recently, hasn't he?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
He temporarily stepped back from his duties last year, I believe, in response to allegations of sexual abuse. Allegations which he has denied.
Right, he denied them. What was the outcome?
Well, he returned to his responsibilities after a church-led investigation concluded, finding no evidence of misconduct.
Okay. It's important to acknowledge these challenging situations, too, when we're talking about potential leaders, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
It's part of the reality, part of the context in which the next pope will be chosen. You can't ignore it.
Well, this has been a really insightful look, I think, at some of the key cardinals who are being talked about as potential successors to Pope Francis.
Hope it's helpful.
It really is. And it's just striking to see the sheer diversity of backgrounds and viewpoints that exist within that college of cardinals. It's
Right.
not monolithic at all.
Not at all. And hopefully, understanding a little bit about these individuals, even just these few, gives everyone listening a clearer sense of the different paths the Catholic Church might take.
Yeah, and how it might engage with all the really important, complex issues facing the world today.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What qualities, or maybe what priorities, do you believe are most important for the next pope as he steps into this incredibly complex role?
That's the big question.
It definitely is. Something to ponder, I guess, as we await the conclave. Thanks for diving deep with us today.